Like, is there a comment you can make on commercial flight, like with Sully landing that plane famously versus the simulator? All of those discussions. Is there some?
Well, it's very similar to what I was talking about earlier with the A6. So one is when you're flying with a crew, there's standardization. So you got to remember when Sully flew, when his first officer, that's the co-pilot, showed up, it's the first time they'd met. And this happens all the time in the commercial world. There's 7,000 pilots at United Airlines. Your chance of flying with the same guy all the time is slim to none. Where in the Navy, we were crewed. So I had a primary and a secondary Wizzo that flew with me.
For months?
Oh yeah, for all of the deployment. So because you want to get to know, you have to
trust all of those things.
It increases the capability of the airplane. It's not to say we can't swap out, but for true effectiveness, especially in very complex missions like a forward air controller, where we're in the air actually controlling ground assets and supporting ground troops. If you're in a high threat area, which is crazy busy, you have to be melded when you do that. You have to have trained to do that job. Otherwise, you're going to be ineffective. So when you get to the commercial world, and I've got tons of friends that fly commercial, there is a standardization. Like, we know that at this point, I'm going to put this switch, you're going to do that. And everyone, they know their roles. Captain's going to do this. First officer's going to do this. And they know that when the emergency breaks out, so in Sully's case, when they take the birds and they know they've got a problem, and if you've listened to the cockpit recordings of the two of them talking, you got to remember, they're talking to each other when you hear the full tapes, but they're also talking to the air traffic controllers in the New York area. And it's like, we got a bird strike, and the first officer already knows, hey, silence the alarm. They silence the alarm. The first officer is pulling out the book. He's going through the procedures while Sully's actually flying the airplane, knowing that they've lost their motors. And you got to think his decision process, like they're trying to get him to go into an airport into New Jersey, and he realizes, not happening, we're going to put this thing. And he made a decision soon enough so that he could prepare everyone on the airplane that he was going to put this thing in the Hudson River, and he did it flawlessly. I mean, every single person walked away from that wreck. The only thing that didn't survive was the airplane, and it got fished out of the Hudson. But
what is it about those human decisions you had to make? Is that something you put into words, or is that just deep down some instinct that you develop as a pilot over time?
It's when you train, and aviation is a self-cleaning oven. So if you make bad decisions, you're and the list is long and distinguished of those who have died by making bad decisions.
Oh man.
So when you look at what he did or the way we train, because the commercial industry and the Navy and the Air Force, for all that, we have emergency procedures that we have to know. Like, the engine's on fire, the first 3 steps, you just have to know what they are, right? So they know. The airline, same type, they go, hey, I know this is, they pull the book out because the airplanes are designed, they're built to have some time. But there's a point where you have to make a decision and you can't second guess it. So when he decided, I'm putting this in the Hudson River, he couldn't all of a sudden halfway through it go, well, maybe I can get over to that airport. He looked, he made a quick assessment. This is that 80% solution where you go, these are not, it's like a multiple choice test when you go, oh my God, I don't really know the answer, but I know A and D are wrong.
Yeah.
Gone. So the Jersey airport and going back to LaGuardia, gone.
Yeah.
So what's my next option? Well, the Hudson River's there, and that's probably looking pretty good. Or what is my other one? Can I get a restart on the motors? And then if I can get a restart, now can I take it someplace else? He had to make really, really fast decisions. And then once they go, that 80% solution, you realize, all right, I'm going into the Hudson. There's the 80%. Get the book out. Let's see if we can get an air start. Because if you listen to the tapes, they're trying to get it air started. The closer he gets to the water, the more he's going, I'm ditching the airplane. So the original decision this is my best option right now. This is where I'm going. And you start eliminating anything that could possibly change the events, which they tried to do. And then he gets to that last minute, says, we're going in the water. They change the plan. They secure the airplane. They do exactly what they're doing. And he does that basically flawless landing on the Hudson. But you got to remember, every 6 months for commercial, they go back and they do research in the airplane in the simulator where they train to the airplane being broken. You just lost a motor. You just lost another motor. So they go through this extensive training, and all these, and it's, we used to refer to it in the Navy as the pain cave, where you're going to get in. Because that when you get in for your check ride in a simulator, that the airplane is going to break. you're going to lose hydraulic. And it's sometimes they're a problem like, oh, I just lost this hydraulic system, but I'm having an issue on the other motor. Well, if I shut down this motor and I've got a hydraulics, because there's 2 hydraulic systems, one on each motor. Well, if I've got an issue with the left motor hydraulic system and my right motor is starting to give me indications, do I want to shut the right motor down because that's going to kill my hydraulic system that's good? And now I'm flying on a good motor with a bad hydraulic system, and without hydraulics, the airplane won't fly. So they're challenging problems that you have to think through in real time. And of course, the weather's never good. It's always dark. It's always crappy. You're going to break out at, it's just all this stuff gets compiled on top of you, and it's intended to increase the level of stress because when things happen, like in Sully's case, we like to joke it's going to stem power. Where the functional part of your brain shuts down and you are literally on instinct like an animal. Well, if you've trained so much that is the instinctive reaction that you're going to have, when the main part of your cognitive abilities start to shut down, you're running, that instinct is ingrained so much into you that you know exactly what to do. And that's literally how it happens.
So there's no, how do I put it, fear of death? Like in Sully's case, do you think he was at all ever thinking about the fact if his decision is wrong, a lot of people are going to die?
I can't speak for him, but I would say there was so much going on at the cockpit in that time. His mindset was probably, I can do this. I'm trained. I'm going to do the procedures. I've practiced this before. I've done these things. And I'm assuming that in his mindset, because I never thought about when things were really bad, if you're having problems with the airplane that I was going to mort, and plant it into the ground. It was always, maybe it's an ego thing where you think I can do this.
So have you experienced fear during flight? Like, one way, we just offline mentioning Mike Tyson. He talked about as he's walking up to the ring, he's like, he starts out basically in fear and worried about how things are going to go. It's purely to put into words is fear, but as he gets closer and closer to the ring, the confidence grows and grows until the ego basically takes over to where you think there's no way anybody could defeat me. So that's his experience of overcoming fear. But did you experience any kind of thing like that, or do you just go to the part of the brain that goes to the training and then you just go to the instinctual 80% solution?
I wouldn't say I was never afraid. I think that would be, I couldn't tell you that anyone I know that wasn't afraid at one time. And for most of us, especially Navy carrier pilots, it's usually, especially when you're new and you got to go out and it's nighttime and there's no moon and the weather sucks and the deck's moving. The ship's going up and down, because it will scare the ever living shit out of you. Can I say that?
You can definitely say that. So it's about landing or takeoff.
That is, if you they used to wire people up. They did it during Vietnam. Guys would go fly missions. When they were flying low and crazy stuff was going on and people were getting shot down a lot. The highest anxiety and heart rates were coming back to land on board an aircraft carrier.
How hard is it to land on that? It seems impossible. Like for a civilian, I guess, like me, it just seems crazy that a human can do that.
The problem with night is, and there's different degrees of night, just like day. There's the clear full moon night, where it's like, woo,
yeah,
this is not that bad. But you got to remember, at night, I think everyone can associate with, you're driving in your car and it's just it's an overcast, dark night, and you're on a country road with no side lights. Most people have a tendency to slow down, just by nature of, oh my God, because what you'll do is you'll outdrive your headlights because it is so dark, and you can get outside of the city and get up into New Hampshire, especially when the roads are curving, and the lines probably aren't that good. Now take that and multiply it by like 1 million, because you have no depth perception. What you think is fixed, the runway, is actually moving.
Mm-hmm. Up and down and left to right.
And when it's really bad, you can actually see it move. And we have 2 systems. There's an automatic system that's actually it stabilizes with the inertials on the ship. And then there's the ILS. Now, civilian pilots will tell you that ILS is a precision approach, which gives you azimuth and glide slope. You come down, it's like a plus. on the carrier, it's not. It's really just a beam that goes out, and it's considered a non-precision approach. It's not stabilized at all that. And I've been where you can actually watch the needle and the tachyon needle will move. There's all kinds of stuff moving because the base that it's all sitting on is doing this. And ships don't just go up and down. They do this. So the bow goes up and down in the tail like you normally see a ship. And then so that's pitch. And then it has roll. So it's doing this. And then it has heave. So the whole boat is going up and down while it's pitching and rolling. And you're going to land on that. So, and I remember landing, so I was with Chris Sato, and Chris and I, we were off the USS Ranger, which is now decommissioned. It's getting turned into razor blades. We're flying the old A6, and we come in, and it was off of San Diego, and it was just an ugly night because San Diego always has a marine layer that is about 1,200 feet. It was lower than that night, and it was pouring down rain. It was an El Nino year, and there's thunderstorms all around. It was just the craziest night I've ever seen out of San Diego. And I remember landing, and your adrenaline is so high that you're shaking. I mean, you literally can't stop. And we had spun around out of the landing area, and we parked. We call it the six-pack, so it's right in front of the island. So if you see an aircraft carrier with the island and the number of the ship on it, we're sitting right in front of that, and we're looking at the landing area. So it's like you get front row seats to the concert. and this EA6B comes in, ugly pass. He ends up catching a one wire, which is the first one. You never want to catch the first one, which means you were not really high above the back of the ship when you landed. And it comes in, and the exhaust on an EA6 or an A6 actually points kind of down, and it blows, and it's blowing all the standing water on the aircraft. That's how hard it's raining. And you literally could not see across. I mean, I could see the front of my airplane, his airplane, and then it was just white because of the water being blown off the deck. Wow. And I'm shaking, and I'll never forget. I looked over at Chris, and I said, "Oh my God." I go, "Hey dude, man, 10,000-foot runway looks really good right now." And I go, and I'm shaking my hands like this. And I said, I'm not faking this, dude. I go, that's literally, I cannot stop shaking. I said, that scared the ever out of me.
Yeah.
But it scares you afterwards. During it, you don't have time to think about that. You're doing it. You got to do. As we, kind of the quote from Tom Hanks in, what's that? The girls' baseball movie where he goes, "There's no crying in baseball." Well, yeah. That's our joke. There's no crying in naval aviation. I said, you can fly around and cry all you want at night, but there's only one pilot in those airplanes, and you got to land it. So you can cry all you want, wipe the tears away, put on your big kid pants, and it's time to man up and land the jet.